Esports fans are used to disappointment. From your favorite team choking to disastrous game announcements, the most faithful supporters are often the ones who get let down the most.
We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Dedication and passion for our beloved games, teams, and players is what brings us together and takes us to the highest highs. But it also drags us down to our most crushing lows.
No! An absolute disaster!
I've cursed him. I have cursed him.
But what if I told you there was a way to never be disappointed again? What if I told you that with one magical substance, you could avoid being let down by loss after loss after loss?
I don't even care. We're all on Adderall.
No, I'm not talking about glorified gamer meth. I'm talking about pure, uncut Copium. It's the hottest upper in esports, and it's making some fans lose touch with reality.
I've seen a couple of people huffing massive amounts of copium, nearly toxic levels of copium.
Copium can do anything. It can convince you your team is going to win when they have no chance in hell. It can even alter your perception of yourself.
Okay, at the Super Bowl, in the middle of the field, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I would say probably the same amount of people recognize Dwayne as me.
It can also delude you into thinking that your region isn't a hopeless hellhole from which no champions will ever emerge.
In Korea, they're probably like, oh, you play League? Yeah, good stuff, Avon, you're 80 carry, that's sick.
Yeah.
But in NA, it's like, oh, you play League? Oh, you must have had nothing better to do with your life.
So today we're going to explore Copium by diving into its mysterious origins, what makes it so terribly addictive, and whether there are side effects to overindulgence. So the first thing we need to talk about with copium is that it's a special kind of word called a blend word or portmanteau. In this case, it blends sounds from cope and opium.
I can smell the copium.
Coping. It's coping with the other bad stuff. You know, addicting things. Basically, it's you're being addicted to getting
Cope, as most people use it, just means to withstand, to endure, and continue. Around the late 2010s, people began accusing each other of losing their grip on reality, and that their bad habits that kept them in a fantasy land were deemed cope. The other part of copium is opium, which, as you're probably aware, is the unprocessed product of the opium poppy. When refined, it's used to make heroin, a practically ancient, dangerously addictive drug that's responsible for countless tragedies, as well as some seriously timeless music.
Warning, theScore Esports does not in any way encourage the use of hard drugs and stimulants, regardless of how good the music is that they may contribute to.
Drugs are bad.
Anyways, back to copium, a substance that you're far more likely to encounter online as opposed to a shady back alley, since it allows you to continue living in whatever deluded world you currently inhabit.
It's always such a copium, no? You die and then it's like, okay, volume is really low.
To put it simply, copium is the digital narcotic you huff when you need to avoid a reality check. Whether it's a way to keep cheering for a team that sucks, or to stop yourself from renouncing your NA citizenship because your team just can't win anything, copium is there to keep you in your happy little bubble. Claims like NA will win worlds this year have copium as their source, but they aren't the source of copium. Real ones might point to its first use in Keek to Sneak's 2004 hardcore West Coast rap album, Counting Other People's Money. But the popularization of the term in its current use can be traced to 4chan in 2019, where the earliest known image of the now iconic emote first appeared. Now, most of the early uses were political, including this one, and political discussion would continue to popularize the term. But by 2020, it had caught on in esports too, and it was an incredible fit, because like politics, it's rife with factions and their deluded fans.
What does copium mean? It means like
I like the clear skins.
they're sniping.
No man, that thing is so distracting.
I'm lagging.
While most of what I've described fits NA like a glove, European League of Legends fans face the allure of a different, highly addictive substance called hopium. You see, unlike NA, they haven't been beaten into the ground by constant years of crushing international failure. In fact, they enjoyed much greater success on the game's biggest stage.
Emily, I don't know if it's you returning to the desk or the hopium, but it's working! It's working!
Hopium is the drug of optimists who believe they're on the brink of triumph. And it makes sense that Europe is hooked on it because they're in a bit of a weird situation. They're obviously better than NA, but even though they've shown they can hang with Asia, they're still falling short at the final hurdle internationally.
The dominoes are falling. Once the universe's dominoes start to fall, you can't stop them.
Now, with both Hopium and Copium in the equation, judging the accuracy of your self-perception can be hard. Is your team actually as good as they seem in Europe, or is something off?
My Wi-Fi passwords were made back in really good old times when I was high on Copium and we used to be a good team and stuff, okay?
Now, I say all this not to attack European League of Legends, but instead to offer a possible explanation for why these two substances have taken hold of the scene. I mean, they won Worlds once, and their teams are almost good enough, so it's hard to imagine a world where they didn't reach for the Copium when things got bad.
We're really digging deep here, aren't we, into the Copium takes.
They're also constantly being compared to North America, which gives Europe plenty of ways to use the term offensively.
Give me some of that shit that Blabber smokes. That is true though. I think that is true. That is not Copium.
Now, North America, if you can't already tell, is the chief exporter of Copium in esports, and this is especially true in Counter-Strike. NACS has been locked in a downward spiral for years, and the only way to cope is to huff some of that good shit. While the pandemic raged, Counter-Strike headed to Europe, and North America just couldn't keep up. Between orgs folding, the online era torching LAN events, and players leaving for Valorant, NACS wasn't looking too hot. It was pretty much only Liquid that survived as a fully fledged Tier 1, mostly North American roster.
Banks has found someone very cool while the rest of NA holds on to their Copium.
Plus, it's not like NA had a lot of glory moments in CSGO before the pandemic. There were a couple, sure, but it's always been more famine than feast.
Lay off me, I'm starving!
Anyway, Copium is clearly rife in esports, but the truth is that its reach extends far beyond it. And thanks to its instantly recognizable and obvious meaning, it's been adopted into the vocabularies of pretty much anybody who frequents the internet. Whether they're political commentators,
It feels so good every time, dude.
or even the filthiest anime-obsessed weebs.
So if you take it in big amounts, in copious amounts of copium, make sure you do it with a friend.
But to prove that using Copium isn't the only way to manage the many disappointments of life, I decided to go on a journey to find out how people in the real world deal with it. And there's no better place to demonstrate my point than the capital of pained perseverance, Copetown, Ontario. A settlement turned suburb founded in 1794 by a United Empire loyalist named William Cope, who spent the early part of his life living in the newly minted US of A.
They fought in the American Revolutionary War, and they came to Canada, or what is now Canada, because they were pushed out of the States because of their ties to Britain and their loyalty to Britain.
That's right. To deal with his disappointment at the Empire's loss, our boy Billy, as he liked to be called, founded a settlement which would eventually bear his family's name. As far as I'm concerned, that makes this place the epicenter of learning to cope. So let's take a look and see if any of these locals have ways to cope without using Copium.
Copetown is kind of the best of all worlds because we're very close to civilization, but we're in the country. So I always say there's a Starbucks 5 minutes away, but at the same time, I'm around cows, I'm around conservation. We've got this beautiful rail trail that we can walk, and yeah, it's a little slice of heaven. I think what's great about being out here in Copetown is that we're just surrounded by nature, we're surrounded by farms, it's quiet, and now the community has this place called Summit Station that they can come. We've created beautiful areas where they can sit, enjoy our milk, but at the same time, it's something different. It's getting out of the city. It's getting just resetting from our busy lives, where the pace is a little bit slower.
It's just my hand.
Yep. But do you think you're going to get some milk from you?
How long have you been in Copetown?
I have been in Copetown my whole life. So I'm 71 years old now. I was born here. So we moved onto this farm in 1947. So I'm born in 52, but we've been on this farm for 76 years. So everything I do is to try and keep these cows as happy as possible.
That's great.
That's my goal, to keep them content and happy and allow them to express themselves, their genetic potential.
That's like, you're kind of like a team manager for cows.
Exactly,
in
exactly.
Esports. You're trying to make sure they all hit their highest potential.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
So, there you have it. Everyone has their own strategy for coping. There are clearly cleaner ways to navigate the despair of being an NA Esports fan without relying on a dangerously addictive substance. Just try to remember that before you start malding in all chat the next time you make a bad call, or the next time someone on the other team is playing lame,
Dude, this guy's just sniping. It's so obvious, dude. What a bitch ass, dude. Who the hold that angle for that long?
just realize that maybe, just maybe, you're on Copium, man, and you should stop before you completely lose touch with reality.
And cut. You know, Josh, I think it's really powerful that you're hosting this video about Copium when you've struggled with it for years.
What do you mean by that?
You know, that time when I found you rocking in a corner, ranting manically about how Heroes of the Storm Esports was coming back.
But it is coming back. Microsoft just bought Blizzard. It's happening.
Oh God, not again.
Okay, I'm fine with that totally. I'm just gonna try and... This isn't the most huffable bag, but I also... I think you f***ed it up by cutting it in half, because there would have been more leverage above, but now I'm like trying to bunch it into like